Hello, my group are Dayana Chávez, Cristian Ortiz, Carolina Quiñones, and Diana Balbuena. We are talking about sustainable development goals.
The 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the 169 goals are part of the 2030 Sustainable Development Act, which will guide policy and financing for the next 15 years. The 2030 Agenda is an action plan for people, the planet, and prosperity with its aims to consolidate peace and requires the development of alliances for the implementation. These 5 elements of sustainable development are interconnected. See the wheel of sustainable development. Building on the success but all gaps of the Millennium Development Goals, the CDG focus on new issues as economic equality, innovation, climate change, responsibility, consumption, peace and justice, among others. The CDG are universal, inclusive, and represent a full commitment to people and the planet. The CDG are as known as the Global Goals for Sustainable Development. The CDG are every business as will share responsibility for our future and the future of the planet. With clear goals and measured objectives, we reality that to analyze the situation. Include at the local level, we risk leaving the most vulnerable begin and not adequately address the new. Change sustainable development and harm our planet. The achievement of the CDG will depend among other factors on the reading of the sensor or leadership and the commitment of people in addressing them. Comparatively, as a part of the program, United Nations Vulnerance is the ability to reach the most remote continents and to promote adopt the local solutions and long-term change in the area. The United Nations Volunteers exported document on the post-2015 development agenda milestones. Volunteers can facilitate and support people's participation in planning, implementing, and monitoring the CDG volunteers camp. Based on mandate from the United Nations General Assembly, program development and an action plan to integrate in the next decade and later. 2016-2030, which identifies 3 strategic objectives. 1. Consolidated people's sense of ownership on development agenda from a greater civic commitment and unveiling space of increasing action. 2. Integrate volunteering into national and global strategies for implementing the DEVOPS 2015 development agenda. 3. Take volunteers into account to contribute to a comprehensive understanding of people contaminated and well-being and be part of the oversight of the CDGs.
Facilitate new spaces for dialogue and action, reaching all people, including those who are marginalized or difficult to access. Raise awareness or advocate for change and inspire so many others to facilitate lasting change in mindsets and behaviors. Help measure progress in implementing the SDGs through data collection, input of experience, and support for participatory forms of planning and monitoring.
Possible activities for volunteers in the context of the SDGs volunteers can
First, raise awareness of the 2030 agenda with local campaigns and creative approaches included in remote areas and among marginalized populations to contribute to the nationalization of the SDGs. 2. Provide technical expertise to complement essential core service in thematic areas called unfinished MDG issues. 3. Shaping behaviors and attitudes to enable the agenda to be truly transformational and to expand knowledge and they will contribute locally to the SDGs. 4. Mobilize people to develop a sense of timeless and ownership of the challenges they face, to take advantage of the planning, implementation, and monitoring phases. 5. Develop skills through the transfer of knowledge and experience while facilitating the dissemination of local skills. And the last one, collect data to determine progress on the SDGs and draw on local wisdom through participatory forms of monitoring, local outreach, and dissemination tools such as the MI World 2030 Survey. Development Goals. In September 2000, based on the decade of major United Nations conferences and summits, world leaders gathered at the United Nations headquarters in New York, endorsing the Millennium Declaration, committing their countries to a new alliance to reduce levels of extreme poverty and establishing a series of objectives with goals and indicators, known as the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, whose due date came in 2015. The MDGs were made up of 8 goals and made up of 18 goals and 48 indicators. MDGs 1 to 7 sought for developing countries to take new measures and join efforts in the fight against poverty, illiteracy, hunger, lack of education, gender inequality, infant and maternal mortality, HIV, AIDS, and environmental degradation, while MDG 8 urged developed countries to adopt measures to reduce debt, increase assistance to developing countries, and promote a fairer market. Guatemala prepared for progress reports on compliance with the Millennium Development Goals, the first in 2002, prepared by the United Nations, the second in 2006, and the third in 2010, and the last was presented in early 2016. After 15 years, the country has made some progress but must require a greater effort to improve the general development of the Guatemalan population. In 2030, Develop Agenda is an action plan for people, the planet, and prosperity. It also aims to strengthen the universal peace within a broader concept of freedom. The adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) represent a historic opportunity to the United Countries and the people around the world and to embark on new paths towards the future. The SDGs are formulated to eradicate poverty, promote prosperity and well-being for all, protect the environment, and tackle global climate change.
The 70 Sustainable Development Goals and their 169 goals are integrated and indivisibly in global in the scope and universal applicable, that in account the different realities and capacity and levels of development of each country and respect their and national and policy and priorities. 70 Sustainable Development Goals. 1. End poverty and informals worldwide. 2. End hunger, achieve food security and preserving nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. 3. Guarantees in a healthy life and promote health binding for early age. Number 4. Ensure inclusive equality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. 5. Achieve gender equality and the empowerment for all women and girls. 6. Guarantee the availability and water and the sustainable management and sanity for all. 7. guarantees to offer safe and sustainable and modern energy for all. A. Promueve sustenta inclusive a sustainable economic growth and full and provide employment and decent work for all. 9. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. 10. Reduce inequality and between countries. 11. Market sites and human settlements inclusive safe, resilient and sustainable. 12. Guarante sustentan construcción and production in Zapader. 30. Take urget de mesuare autote combat climate and effect tanking not the agreed clothing in the United Nations frame convention on the climate change. 14. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources on sustainable development. 15. Project restore and promote sustainable of territorial economics and carry sustainable forests and managing fin desertification and stock reserve and the degradation occur to los biological diversity. 16. Promote the fellows and inclusive societies for sustainable development and facilitate access to justice for creative, effective, responsible, and inclusivity institutions at the levels. 17. Strict on the main simulation and realize the global pattern on sustainable development.
In this video that President Ivan Duque speaks, he showed in the foreground how the University of the Andes is already in being one of the base centers of free debate and long-term policy for sustaining the polemics. Also, over the polemics and alliances that we have to manage with the environment, where it also shows that the latter is one of the most important as we have and we can manage in responsibly. It shows us that the EU sustainable development goals are a global pillar and more than that, and advanced with great impact, which were become by entities such as the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, which were formed with 17 high-impact goals in 169 fundamental objectives. It makes the 17th objective to be fully consistent and coherent for their implementation and process to be exercised. It talks about how technology can affect human stats, as we ask how the 5G network is fully up and running, but also our goal points such as energy relevance to this device in the countries. Is planning to do a planning of 20 to 13 years to forget the bad and make the good process, so that the next president will continue with this program, which was called the Pact for Colombia, the Pact for Equality. It is shown that the problem of Betfan or Colombians unamountly at that the biggest challenge facing our country is informality at the salary level and therefore labor. With this comes the proposal for the new tax system that with this, all public goods will be deployed for the process of each Colombian mailing in rural areas. It proposes a sustainable health systems under the appropriation of education instruments and corresponding finances. It touches a base point of gender equality, grown child that 50% are women enjoying convenience, and also in other state institutions invite the private sector to the food is favored and take example of governance and education. It is analyzed that Colombia is lacking in security and care for citizens as such, which is based in goal number 16, also making rural religions based on characteristics of corruption and health. Lastly, we like the idea on providing cooperation and education at resources levels and general levels, seeking to automation in order to create criteria of excelling under the term of reforming in education system where the first pillar is equality.